they have done. And next up, a creative legend with a tech obsession. He has won Cannes Lions, led teams at Google, Ogilvy, etc., and now helps brands to innovate with AI at Bastholm Creative Consulting. So please welcome Lars Bastholm.
So I was at a conference, not unlike this one, with slightly fewer ducks. And there was a panel discussion, and people were being asked, so what do you think about AI? And the first panelist said, I'm filled with wonder. I think the opportunities are amazing. And the next one said, that's funny, because I'm in panic. And I was sitting there going, well, you're both really right, aren't you? It feels like the two expressions, wonder and panic, are what describes AI perfectly, and where we're at. So I quickly went to GoDaddy, and then I bought wonderpanic.com. And the fact that it was available just led me to believe that maybe I was onto something with that word. Haven't got a clue what to use that URL for, so if anybody has ideas for what to use wonderpanic.com for, please put it on the Slido. Very curious. Anyway, I run a company called Bastholm Creative Consulting. I've worked on sort of the intersection of technology and storytelling for the last 30 years. And at the end of 2022, I started to get really into AI because I have a little secret, which is that as a creative, it's always pained me that I can't draw to save my life. So, you know, most people can draw a stick man. My stickmen don't look like stickmen. It is terrifying. I have no spatial understanding whatsoever. My kids made fun of me when they were little. Daddy, can you draw something for me? And they would just sit there and giggle as I tried. But all of a sudden, with the advent of Midjourney and AI, I could create things that I couldn't before, ever. I'm a writer by trade. I started out as a copywriter. And now I could write a picture. So I decided to set myself a challenge. Could I, just using words, actually put together a picture book? So I created this thing called Animals on the Verge, a picture book for adults. And if you read the copy there, you'll understand why it was for adults. It was about a bunch of kind of errant animals going about their nonsensical business. But anyway, I wanted to have like the same style going all the way through the book. I wanted to have a font that I developed in Midjourney as well. I do not recommend doing that at the end of 22, start of 23. It was an absolute nightmare. But it was so much fun that I just fell really deeply into the rabbit hole, and I haven't been able to worm my way out of it since. But let's take a quick step back, because it's only about 5 years ago that this research paper came out that showed that they developed a computer program that was able to take two completely unrelated concepts, like on one hand chair and on the other hand avocado, and then have the computer think about what would it look like if you merged those two independent concepts into one. So when the avocado chair came out, there was everybody going, oh, that's got to be something interesting here. And now you just, go fast forward, 4 or 5 years, and avocado chairs are really awesome now. I mean, I would like that in my house. A nice avocado chair, when people would come visit, you go, what's that over there? That's my avocado chair, just casually. Because, I mean, who doesn't want to be able to say that, right? And of course, once you have images, the next step is video. And bizarrely, Will Smith sort of became the avatar for AI video, Will Smith eating pasta specifically. And it started out pretty badly in 23. You really don't want to see that. But now it's sort of gotten to a point where, I mean, that is Will Smith eating pasta. That's what he looks like. I mean, his friends tell me. So, we've gotten to a point where if you can imagine it, you can basically create it. So the prompt coherence you have now, especially with advents like Google's Nano Banana that came out a few months ago, you're at a point now where you can create pretty much what you can envision up in your head. I think we're at an inflection point that's not unlike what it was like when Lord of the Rings came out and Gollum was created. And filmmakers were like, well, now you can basically make anything. You can now make everything, because this doesn't cost a fortune the way Gollum did. But let's take another little sideways step here and say, well, does that mean that anyone can do anything now? Not quite. When I was a young writer, when I started out at Gray, there was a sign in the writer's room. And the sign said, any idiot can write, and many do. And that's the truth about creativity, right? I mean, just because I give you a paintbrush doesn't turn you into Da Vinci. Talent requires, the ability to recognize when something is good. So just because you get the paintbrush, that doesn't mean that you have a great talent. But one of the things we're also facing as creatives, I'm sure a lot of you have sat there, I'm working on this project, it's going really well, I'm almost done with it, and boom, a new model drops from Google, from OpenAI, from Runway, or any of the many other software companies that produce the software that enables us to create stuff. And you're like, God damn it, I have to start over again, because all of a sudden it's better than it was before. So learning has taken on this slightly different dimension, where it used to be, this was kind of what learning looked like, right? You'd be like, hey, let's go. Then you go, utter confusion, trying to figure out what this shit's about. And then you're like, okay, yeah, I got it. And they'd be like, oh, no, maybe not quite. And then you'd go back and learn more, and then you'd end up being a master. We're stuck in this, what is this shit? We're living in what is this shit land, where we're constantly trying to relearn things and get better at things, only to get disrupted and thrown back into a beginner's situation. But let's go back to Wonder Panic. So I asked one of my artificial friends to help me write a definition. You can, of course, tell this is written by AI because of the M dash before the often, right? One of the trademarks of AI writing, it uses the M dash. Funnily enough, the M dash is actually a great tool for good writing, but because AIs have started using it, now people are afraid to use it in actual writing. Anyway, the definition we came up with together was a wonder panic. It's a sudden electrifying blend of awe and dread, triggered by glimpsing boundless possibilities, often accompanied by frantic brainstorming and a dizzying mix of delight and dismay. That seems about right, doesn't it? So I was kind of wondering, are there other examples in history of wonder panic? And I started doing some research. And I came across this wonderful German monk, as one does when you do research, who back in 1492 said that printed books will never equal scribed books, especially because the spelling and ornamentation of printed books is often neglected. Copying requires greater diligence. He was struck by Gutenberg's invention of the printing press as just being completely inferior to everything that had gone before. Fast forward 400 some years, you may remember the movie Babylon, if any of you have seen that, how the advent of sound just completely derailed how movies were made before then. And Mary Pickford said that adding sound to movies would be like putting lipstick on the Venus de Milo. Not something that you necessarily want to do. Staying in the realm of film, in 1982, Jack Valenti, who was the chairman of the Motion Pictures Association of America, said the VCR is to American film producers and the American public as the Boston Strangler is to the woman home alone. Whoa, Jack. It's a little terrifying, but so wonder panic is not a new sensation. It's something that happens every time a truly revolutionary technology comes rolling along. And I think we can all agree that this is what we would call a revolutionary technology. You've probably seen this slide and this type of comparison before. These massive steps happen that change things, but I actually think we need to take a step deeper. And this is probably a more relevant slide to look at when you talk about AI. So imagine when fire sort of started getting used by humans 1.5 million years ago. I'd like to take you back to a little village on the outskirts of somewhere around here. And on one corner over here is the guy selling raw mammoth steaks. It's like holding him up, here, come eat this. Over here is a guy who's made a little fire, put some stones up there, and now he's roasting the mammoth meat. And the smell is just coming. And the guy over there is like, what the shit happened? This guy's selling all the mammoth meat. I'm not selling a damn thing anymore. That's kind of where we are now. We can go into stories about what happened to the guy who was dragging a stone along and the real guy came rolling by laughing, but that'll take a little too long for this session. But what I mean here is that I think we're looking at a sort of genuine cultural shift that will change the way we all work in the future. There's a great Italian philosopher whose name was Antonio Gramsci who created this sort of thing about 100 years ago at this point, where he said that the old world is dying and the new world struggles to be born, and now is the time of monsters. What that has sort of come to signify today is the disconnect between where technology is taking us and the time it takes for society at large to adapt to the changes. So right now, we're all living squarely in the middle of the Gramsci gap. This could probably be a whole presentation in and of itself. I mean, I don't know how much you guys have been playing around with AI agents. They don't work great right now. They can barely, buy groceries for you or anything else of relevance. But it's going to be fascinating to see what happens in the next few years when a lot of marketing gets handled by AI agents. I'm pretty sure that we're all going to outsource a lot of the lower hanging fruit and the brands that we're not necessarily all that excited about buying, like toilet paper, milk, the same cheese you buy all the time. We'll just tell our agent, this is what I always want to have in the fridge, make sure it gets purchased. And they were going to go look for the lowest price and buy it wherever they can get the best offer. So it takes a lot of sort of human agency out of it, but it also takes a lot of drudgery away from us. So that's where I think that agents are going to be impacted first. We're also going to see agents negotiating for us. Like, if you tell your agent, I want to go to the Maldives with my family, I want to go this time span, I want to pay about this much for it, go negotiate with all the travel agents and see if you can get me a good offer. No agency from the human side involved, just your agent dealing for you. Now, what that's going to mean for brands and how we start to create not SEO, search engine optimization, but agent optimization is going to be an exercise and probably something, if you want to start a business today, I highly recommend throwing yourself into that. We may also be getting to a point where we solve the eternal conundrum of good, fast, and cheap. Where it's always been like you can either get good, fast, or cheap. You can only get 2 of the 3. So you can get good and fast, but then it's not going to be cheap, or you can get fast and cheap, or then it's not going to be good. So the hope here is that our agent friends and our artificial friends will take care of the fast and the cheap, so that we, as humans, can use our skill set to apply the good to whatever we're doing. And the best case scenario there is that could usher in a new golden age of creative advertising, where we actually have the time and the money to sit down and truly think about what's the best creative idea instead of spending oodles of time on the multitude of touch points that we have to produce today, because that can all be done by the machines. There's this wonderful quote by an American philosopher called Eric Hoffer. He says, "In times of change, the learners will inherit the world, while the knowers will be beautifully equipped for a world that no longer exists." And that is the danger of not getting on board this train, is that you will end up being the knowers instead of the learners. So, if we kind of take it for granted that this is what the creative team of the future is going to look like, how could that play out? The company Fiverr did a wonderful little film that shows how it might play. Can we get audio on that, please?
Before Fiverr Go, I was just another AI.
Level up boss mode, now you run the show.
Always trying to create, but never quite getting it right.
You want me to regenerate it in a different style, like K-pop? I just wanted a speech.
I did have one thing going for me, though.
14 seconds.
Wow, that was fast.
Speed.
So you gonna use it?
That?
No, definitely not.
Here are 600 one-of-a-kind taglines for your brand. Number 4?
Same.
Yeah, I was a mess.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
I have been known to take inspiration from other people's work.
Oh,
That's how I met Jane. She's an illustrator on Fiverr.
What are you doing?
I guess Jane saw something in me. She taught me everything. Her technique, her vision, her attention to detail.
Great. Try 5 fingers.
For the first time, my abilities were focused. I finally had my own style. Her style.
All right. See you later.
Now I take on some of her projects, delivering work in seconds.
Have a good day.
My creativity.
My efficiency.
Clients couldn't be happier.
And if a client needs a human touch, she's there to refine my work, her work, our work. You get it.
There are a lot.
So that's like the best case scenario that we're looking at. So how do we as human creators and as human creatives, how do we prepare for that world? What do we need to be good at? Well, as the story of Jane and her AI says, taste is everything. We are the arbiters of the final result. If you don't have the experience or the taste level to decide whether something is good, how will you ever know? If you get 1,000 things presented to you, you have to be the one picking the one that's the right one. We are also incredibly good at being weird, humans are. This is a picture from the Hobby Horse World Championships in Finland. I tried to get an AI to replicate the whole concept of teenage girls taking a broom shaft, putting a horse's head on it, and jumping over obstacles. It absolutely, utterly refused to do it. Because that is just too goddamn weird. That's not a thing it's been ever trained on, because it doesn't exist. Except, of course, it does in Finland. What that says about Finland is a whole other conversation. You also need to put in the time to really learn how to use these tools. I recently rewatched Peter Jackson's amazing Get Back documentary about the Beatles. And there's this one sequence that just has my jaw on the floor every time I watch it. If you haven't watched it, you should really watch it as one of the best live demonstrations of creativity ever. So Paul McCartney comes into the studio in the morning, everyone's a little tired, they're just sitting around, he picks up a bass, starts humming to himself, picking out a melody, and all of a sudden you hear Get Back emerge from like the great soup of musical knowledge that he has amassed over the years. But he spent thousands upon thousands upon thousands of hours playing his instrument, understanding the world that he was in, before that just random occurrence happened. So he put in his time. Demis Hassibis, who is the CEO of Google DeepMind, said that the most important skill for any of us to have in the future is that we learn to learn. Because everything is happening so fast, you kind of on an ongoing basis have to unlearn and relearn how you're doing things and be ready to adapt to the new way of doing things. So learn how to learn. You should also fail really fast, because there's no point in spending an ungodly number of hours on something that may not actually be the tool you're looking for when it comes right down to it. So stay away from the two-headed giraffes as much as you can. It's also important to keep in mind that while technology changes, we humans, we're basically the same. We don't change fundamentally and all that much from what we need, want, and desire. I used to have this wonderful slide that showed the correlation. It was a Google Trends slide. It showed the correlation between searches on Netflix for Best of Netflix and Hangover Cure, and they all overlapped on January 1st. And that's just to say, you know, we don't change that much. We do the same things over and over again, and the technology that we use to achieve those objectives changes, but we fundamentally don't. I was at the bazaar in Istanbul. Don't know if you guys have ever been there, but you know, you're walking around these little alleyways, and there's all these merchants trying to sell you rugs, trying to sell you spices and whatnot. And the rug merchants are desperately trying to get you into their shops. And we finally got convinced by one of the shop merchants to come in, and he poured us some mint tea, and then he started showing off these rugs. But what was interesting to me was he was telling me that every single rug has a tiny flaw built in by design. And that is because in the Muslim religion, only Allah is perfection, so it's human to have a slight error in there to signify that it is made by a human. And I think there will be value put on things that are obviously made by humans in this day and age. The great Sir John Haggerty, the founder of BBH and one of the smartest men in the advertising industry, said that an AI has never had its heart broken. And he uses that to sort of say, well, we have some experiences as people that a machine will never have. No matter how many books it reads about having your heart broken, no matter how many films it sees about failed romance, it will never have that deep, deep hurt inside that you experience as a human when your heart is broken. So we do have some facets that we add to the great soup of ideas that machines do not. Zoe Skayman is a planner in London and also a very, very smart woman. And she has this great line where she says, in a world of algorithmic consensus, the person who stands for something specific becomes the beacon that others follow. So if you take away one single thing from this presentation, it should be the line, be the pink Batman. If you're the pink Batman, you're going to be great, because no one else is a damn pink Batman. Well, now the problem is, of course, now that it's out of the bag, you're all pink Batman, but, choose your own color of Batman for all I care. Conceptually, I'm sure you get it. So be the pink Batman. And that's because we're living in an age right now where literally anything is possible. That could be wildly overwhelming, but it can also be seen as a true gift to any creative person, that your palette has just gotten so much bigger and you can suddenly draw with words and create pretty much anything you want through sheer imagination. So like I said, I've been in this game for about 30 years, and I actually don't think I'm as energized or having as much fun as I am right now in many, many, many years. So really, if you're not having fun, it's because you're not doing it right. Thank you.
Thank you, Lars. Let's go to the questions. Oh yeah, the first one's really practical. Valentina, where are you? Oh, over here, in the first row. Can we have a book here, please? Valentina asked, please name top 5 AI programs for this and next year.
Well, 3 of them are coming out in the next 2 months, so I wouldn't know, but I can tell you which ones I use the most. I use Midjourney, I use Claude, I use ChatGPT, I use Perplexity for searches in general, and then I use a little thing called Reeve, which I highly recommend trying. Reeve, R-E-V-E.app, which is incredibly good at conversational editing of images. So sometimes I'll create an image in one program, and then I'll feed it into Reeve and edit it in there. But I did a little overview last year at the end of the year on how much money I spend on AI subscriptions. Don't ever do that. It is crazy. It's a damn fine business model to charge small subscriptions for something.
What does originality actually mean during the age of AI? And I would add myself, does it even matter anymore?
I mean, it comes back to a bigger question, which is what is quality? If some of you might...
quality, not originality.
It's the same thing, because originality in a context is always the same as quality, pretty much. And there's a great book called Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. I don't know if any of you ever read it. But there's a guy in it, the main character, and he goes crazy trying to define what quality is. Because quality, I mean, one man's trash is another man's treasure, right? If you're creating something divisive, like if you look at the work from coming out from Liquid Death, for instance, the brand Liquid Death makes iced tea. A lot of their work is extremely divisive. Some people hate it, some people absolutely love it. And I think that's what originality is not being afraid of being a little bit divisive and, not being everybody's cup of tea.
Thank you very much, Lars.